The Bad Batch, Episode 9, The Crossing. The Bad Batch travel to a desert planet to undertake their first mission since Echo's departure, which is to harvest a highly volatile, yet tremendously valuable mineral called Ipsium, within a mine that Sid has recently purchased and has them go in to try to retrieve it. Things, however, get complicated when the Marauder is stolen under Wrecker's watch, leaving the Batch stranded and, well, causing tensions as a result to rise within the group. One of these said tensions is that surrounding Omega, who's still dealing with the absence of Echo and is having trouble accepting this change. And well, this episode does largely focus on her feelings on this said subject, as it quite significantly contrasts with how everyone else is dealing with this said change, especially Tech. But eventually overcoming the obstacles faced throughout their time so far on the planet, the Batch do end up making it to a nearby spaceport and call Sid for a ride home, of which she at first seems reluctant to help, which I can't say is all that surprising given Sid's character. But it's here where Tech decides to put his foot down and call in the favors that Sid does owe the Batch, prompting the Trandoshan to change her mind, only just to say that she'll take her sweet time in doing so and hangs up on the Batch. Which, again, isn't surprising behavior from her, but it was nice to see the favors that the Batch did rack up with her in previous episodes finally come to use here. Now, it goes without saying that this was a rather peculiar episode in comparison to everything else that we've got, as unlike every other episode this season where the Batch had to overcome some foe or foes, whether it be the Empire, mercenaries, gangsters, or even a giant creature, this episode instead was largely the Batch versus the dangers of the elements on a desert planet. But even then, that was more so the placeholder if anything, as the focus of the episode was of course Omega dealing with change in her life, and well, her abrasiveness towards it, while at the same time also giving us a bit of Tech being the polar opposite of that, who's actually very accepting towards change, maybe a little too much and showing very few emotions about it. And that's something that does bother Omega. Speaking about opposites, I did find it a little strange, at least with Omega, as in Season 1, she was all about change, leaving her life behind on Kamino to go off-world, something that she's never done before, and joining Clone Force 99, doing things she's obviously not qualified for, nor even thought she'd do in her life. So while there, she had absolutely no issues with accepting change and even almost forcing it upon herself. Yet here now, she's suddenly a bit of an emotional wreck on just not being able to see Echo every day. But okay, then again, I guess you could also argue that Omega didn't like her life on Kamino and loves being a Bad Batcher, which is fair. But even then, it's still nonetheless accepting and wanting change in your life, good or bad. So this whole thing about Omega having issues accepting change in her life was a bit, for me. I also have to note that while I did like the Stampede chase here, which was very much reminding me of the one from The Lion King, it also at the same time felt somewhat pointless, as it didn't really serve as anything in this episode other than a random reference to an old Disney classic just for the sake of it. I mean, yeah, it looked cool, but other than that, what was really the point of it? Overall, this was an okay episode. Could have been worse, it could have been better, and it's also quite hard to rate it as it's clearly the first of a two-parter and its role is all strictly set up. I suppose if you don't care for what Omega's feelings about Echo's absence and change in general are, then there really isn't much to anything for you here. And well, each time they did mention Echo and the sensitive mission that he's currently on with Rex, it did kinda make me wish that we'd be watching that instead of the Bad Batch wander around a desert planet for half an hour. To each their own, and if this story does start hitting hard in next week's continuation, then I'm sure my opinion on this episode will change to reflect that. But for now, I'm honestly disappointed that this story got a second parter and not the one with Gungi on Kashyyyk, as I feel that had more potential to be a banger than this one did, but hey, I'm open to being proven wrong. And that was my take on this episode of The Bad Batch. Let me know what you all thought about the episode in the comments down below, and if you haven't already, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.